Welcome to Lawyer Business Advantage. This podcast is dedicated to helping attorneys earn more money, get better clients, and spend more time with family. I'm your host, Alay and founder of Law Firm Success Group. Smart business guidance for small law firms begins in 3, 2, 1. And it's my pleasure to welcome to Lawyer Business Advantage Gary Johnson after a long hiatus of about 10 minutes. Consultant and owner of J2 Marketing Consultants. Gary works with attorneys to build their book of business. And if you haven't heard him on the last 2 episodes, you totally should. We're going to dive into an interesting topic today, which is taking those consultations that you get as attorney entrepreneurs and converting those into clients. Gary, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. Especially spending the last hour with you. Are you kidding me? This is like the highlight of my month, maybe year.
Flattery will get you everywhere. So how
Exactly.
often does this come up when you're working with attorneys that they are interested or should be interested in taking those consultations and converting them into clients?
I mean, people are uncomfortable with it. They're like, how do I make my pitch deck better? How do I, pitch my services? What do I have to tell them in order for them to convert to being a client? And they're very uncomfortable with it because they're uncomfortable selling, and selling their services. So it's very natural for them to be like, I can bring somebody to the table, but to convert them is challenging sometimes, especially the higher end clients, the bigger clients, the bigger matter, the bigger cases. So it happens all the time.
Yeah, I get the same thing too. We typically back into that in one of 2 ways. One, we're looking at where they're spending their time. They say they spend a lot of time on consultations, like they'll be on the phone with a client, or a client will be in their office for 45 minutes, an hour and a half. It's a big time suck. Or we look at their numbers, and when we're looking at their lead tracking, how many of those leads actually convert to clients, it's much lower than it should be. It's less than 60%. So that's typically how we back into the consulting conversation as well. All different things, but it's all about that conversation. And so let's start off with maybe the expectations, because a lot of this stuff is all about expectation setting. What should the attorney's expectation be when they are doing a consultation with a client? What's the purpose of that consultation, and how should they think about it going into that?
It's a great question. I would say that the expectation is to learn about the other person and to figure out what is the pain that person has. I always say that probably the best thing that you should be doing is being the CPO of your firm, which is the Chief Pain Officer. You should try and find out as
That's
much
an interesting
pain
visual.
as possible. Yeah, no, not that kind of pain. But what's the pain that the potential client is going through? And the way that you find that out is you can do intakes, which is just asking questions. You're asking questions. If you can do an intake before you get on the phone with them, that kind of gives you a better idea, which can save you a lot of time. I mean, a lot of time to really get to the heart of the matter. It also enables you to ask the better questions because that's really what it's all about, is asking really good, insightful questions to find out what is that pain and actually identify it too, not just gloss over it. Oh, yeah. You can really see it in people's faces. You can hear it in their voices when the pain comes up. It's like, and I'm talking about pain of people that are buying a business, that are selling a business, that are going through a trust litigation, that are going through a divorce, that are going to be purchasing a piece of property that is amazing and it's going to make them so much money and they're so fired up. There's still pain in there that the attorney needs to pull out, because when they do, it makes it easy.
Yeah. So you're using the word pain, and I want to talk about that briefly. You're using the word pain and not problem. And you're using that very intentionally. So when you talk about pain versus problem, what's the difference between the two?
Pain's got emotion behind it. Pain actually makes people move forward on it, and they feel it, like they feel it in their bones. And sometimes it's just surface, like sometimes it's deep, it's a deep pain. The other thing that is important about pain is, as opposed to a problem is what gives you the pain. And so when we can really get to the pain, and this goes into the neuroscience of marketing, is that when we can identify what that pain is, we can really tap into that. And then we can help the potential client understand that we can either eliminate that or alleviate it or help them in some way or another. It just makes them feel like they've been heard. And they're like, Alay, you get me. You completely get me. Thank you. I feel comfortable, but also I feel confident that you're going to be able to help me out.
Yeah.
And so
And
it's just a different neurological thing between pain and problem.
it is. It is.
Symptom and what is the, no, drawing a blank on the other one. Symptom and
Pause.
cause, cause,
Yeah.
cause and effect.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, one example of a question that you could ask if you're an attorney entrepreneur and you're talking to a potential client in the consult that will get past that problem issue, because that's typically what the clients like to talk about as the problem. We'll dig past that into where they're uncomfortable, which is pain, is asking things
Yep.
like, so if I understand this is the challenge you have, right? And they'll say, and you repeat it back and they say, yep, you got it. Okay. How does that impact you? And they'll kind of look at you and
Right.
go, what? Like, yeah, how does it impact you actually? I understand this issue, but how does that really impact you? And then they'll tell you. And that's when you're
Yeah.
starting to dig into it. Gary, that's a one of my favorite go-to questions. What's yours?
Mine is almost identical. Like, because what you're doing is they are now verbalizing it. So they're like, this, anytime that you can get somebody to verbalize it, it becomes real to them. Here's the other thing is, and this happens a lot with attorneys, is that they won't ask that question that you just asked, because they're like, I already know the answer. I know it. I've seen people like this. I know what they're going through. I know the pain that they're going through. And they're assuming that they do. But even if they're right, by getting the potential client to say it, it makes it real. And then it's like, then you can go back to that and say, yeah, so that, I understand that this is how this is affecting you. And you can keep on, not in a manipulative way, but you can keep on pressing the pain, because if the pain is not strong enough, they're not going to make a decision.
Right.
But when it's strong enough, they will. I mean, look at doctors. Doctors are good at this. You go in, you're like, my shoulder is hurting. What do they want to do? They want to identify really where it is, and they want you to have pain there while they're there. So they're going to twist it around. They're going to push on it. You're like, that's it, right? They're not doing it to manipulate you. They're doing it so that you're going to make a decision on getting shoulder surgery. Like, yeah, the pain has been too long and okay, well, here it is. Here's the solution to this problem that you have. But more importantly, getting down into it, this is the pain that you're going through right now. And if you can get them to verbalize it, it's gold. It's absolutely gold.
Spot on. So one of the things they should do in the consult is try and find the pain. What else?
You also want to find out, what are they trying to accomplish? What's their goal? So you can understand their expectations. So, that might be, I want to get out of this lawsuit. That might be, I want to get to a settlement of $500,000 instead of 50 million. That means whatever, right? It means I want to be confident that my kids are being taken care of with my trust and my will. So finding out what they want to accomplish and what their goal is such an important element.
That's true. Another thing is making sure that they're going to be the right client for you, that
Oh
they
God, yeah.
can, afford your services, that you can address the issues that they have in a really good way, like you're the best attorney for them, and that they're going to be clients that you enjoy working with. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we call it the red velvet rope policy, where you're only working with your most ideal clients, the people that give you energy, as opposed to the people that suck the energy out of you, those energy vampires. When you've identified what's important to you, because it's different for everybody, what's important to you, you'll be able to identify. And it's almost like it's educating your gut, where you're across from a client, you're like, gut's telling me, oh, something's up. You don't make those mistakes. And it's funny when we ever go over the red velvet rope policy, typically when I say identify who your ideal client is, and it's usually two things. They have a pulse and they have a checkbook. I'm in, like, and I'm like, that's a huge mistake. I'm like, have you ever worked with somebody that had a pulse and a checkbook that was an awful, awful client? They're like, yeah. How'd you feel about that? They're like, I hated it. I hated answering their calls every time that they called, and their emails were always nasty, and I always got in a bad mood. And I'm like, and you weren't doing your best work. You have to identify whether you're going to be able to do your best work for them, because you do good work. I think most attorneys do really good work, but we want to do our best work, and we do our best work with the people that we identify as our ideal clients, because we love it and it's passionate. Like, oh my God, yes, I want to take this phone call and I want to do more for them, and da 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 da. We do our best work with those people, as opposed to, oh God, is she calling again? Oh God, I just want to fire them. And so that, I agree, is a very important part of the consultation, because it's not just they need to hire you. You're actually hiring them too, because you are providing a service. It's your time, which is your most valuable asset. So you do need to make the right decisions with that too.
And then if all those things align, like you found their pain, they resonate, you can really solve their problem. You'd be a great fit for them as an attorney, and they're a great fit for you. They fit your red velvet rope policy. You're going to go ahead and let them in and become one of your clients. What else do we want to get done during this consult?
You
Last thing.
want to, yeah, you want to
Close.
tell them,
Get the
huh?
fee agreement signed. We want them to sign the fee agreement.
Right. But for the fee agreement, you need to make sure that you align their pain with the gain that you will give them. So you've aligned those two things together, which then goes, here you go. Here's the fee agreement. Here's my retainer. Here, for it, because then it makes it so easy that they understand, I've got this pain, and I've told you, Alay, that I've got this pain. And then you're like, and I understand that you have this pain, and here is the gain by working with me that you could get, because we can never guarantee anything. But here is where we're going to end up. And then it's like, yeah, I get it. You get me. You understand me. I think that this is going to be a really good fit. And then it becomes so easy to have them sign. Typically, they'll go, so what's next steps, Alay? Oh, here we go. I've got this. I'm going to send you over. Yeah. Oh, no.
Next steps. Well, yeah, we don't want that to happen.
Oh my God. What am I going to do? Yeah. And one of the other things that we're so terrified of is objections. What if they have an objection? I'm like, if they don't have an objection, you probably should be worried. If they do have an objection, that means they're interested. If they're like, okay, sounds great, I'll get back to you. Oh, they're never going to get back to you. There's just no way, But if they're like, okay, so Alay, tell me a little bit. So on this, how much do you charge? Wow, that's expensive. Like, how much do you think this whole litigation is going to cost us? And You're like, I don't know, because it's litigation. Litigation can be very little, it could be a lot. It depends on the way it goes. People are so like, oh my God, I don't want to have any objections. I love it when I have objections because it enables me the opportunity to help them understand whatever that objection is. And let me tell you, here's the other thing, and we talked about this at the last on the last podcast, is the difference between manipulation and persuasion. When it is not the right fit for them and you're still trying to push it, that's manipulation.
Yep. If
If
it's not the
somebody's
right
got an
fit,
objection,
refer it out
yeah,
right away.
that's exactly right. When they're like, Alay, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm not the right fit for you. You should refer that out. It's the right thing to do, period. And it's going to be the right thing for the attorney to do as well, because otherwise they're going to be like, why did I ever take this?
Yeah.
This isn't like,
Yep.
so you want those objections, lean into them.
Yep. And one of the best ways to get objections is to actually go over the fee agreement with the client.
Mm-hmm.
Right. While if it's a phone call while they're on the phone, if it's in person while they're in your office, one of the big mistakes I see is that they don't go over the fee agreement during the consultation. So if the fee agreement's not signed, that client is not a client yet. And so then you get in this loop of, oh, I'll email you the fee agreement and let me know if you have any questions, and it could take days, and the whole thing kind of goes off the rails. But if you have that fee agreement in front of you, you can walk them through it, address all of their objections, right?
Yep.
And then what?
Have them sign.
Have them sign. Yep. Yep. How do you do that,
Yeah.
Gary? Do you have a go-to thing that you, because that's terrifying for a lot of people, forget if it's just attorneys, but people that aren't used to asking for business. It is
Yeah.
really scary the first few times you do it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is, you can't give legal advice to somebody unless they're a client. So ethically, you are obligated to get them. If you're excited about working with them, think of that. Think of that aspect. Like really lean into that, being like, I need to get them to sign as quickly as possible so that I can start working with them, so that I can be of service to them, so that I can be doing these great things that we just talked about. As opposed to, okay, will they think this way? Will they think that? Am I too expensive? Am I charging too much? Am I the right fit? Bah, 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 bah. All the gremlins that are in our own head, they're all limiting beliefs. If you're only focusing on them and how you are going to serve them, those gremlins go away. They start to dissipate away. And if you're excited about it, they're going to feel it. They're going to be like, yeah. And it's not a selfish thing. Again, this is the persuasion where they're going to win, you're going to win. So you should feel good about them signing that agreement. That makes it so much easier. Here's the other thing is that when you do what you just said to do, where you're like, let's go over this fee agreement, that shows them you're confident with everything. Neurologically, they're attracted to that. You're not hiding anything, as opposed to, oh, I'll send you the fee. Yeah, I'll just send that to you. We don't need to talk about it right now because you're so uncomfortable about it. People are going to be like, there's something amiss with this attorney. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm going to get a second opinion. I'm going to ask another one, as opposed to, yeah, I want you to ask me these questions. That confidence comes across in a really impactful way, because let me tell you, everybody wants a confident attorney. Everybody does. A lot of people go, how do you work with attorneys because they're so arrogant? I'm like, they're not arrogant. They've got big egos, and you want them to have big egos as long as they're not narcissists, and it's all about me. But you want them to have that big ego because they're confident in their ability. And if they're confident in their ability, they're a better attorney. And if they come across that with the consultation, it makes getting the business that much easier. I mean, it really does. And it's authentic. It's really authentic. And it's not this sleazy. And it's like, I don't know why this business just keeps coming in. I keep getting more and more business. This is great. And I feel like I'm not selling them because I know that that's a dirty word in the attorney world. But they're like, this is great. I am offering a service and people are taking it because I'm doing it in the right way, in the right manner, and I have the right processes to get through that.
And of course, yeah, this is all best practices, but as individuals, you have to come up with a practice that works best for you. And that's what, folks like Gary do for a living. So there is one thing that we have not talked about, which is deliberate. So if you're listening to this, you might be wondering why Gary and I haven't brought up giving them some advice and solving their problem. They're coming in with these issues. You have to convince them that you know your stuff. And so you're going to give them some tips and some pointers so that they can get some
Mm-hmm.
information. And then if they want to move forward, they can. Gary, what are your thoughts on that approach?
About giving them something, you're
Oh yeah,
saying giving
helping
the
them,
potential
helping
client.
them, right? You've got a half an hour or an
Yeah,
hour. Let's help them
yeah,
solve the problem right here for free.
yeah. I mean, I always say that you have to read the room. You have to read the potential client. But I am all for giving them a taste for what they can expect from working with you. Do you want to solve all of their problems? No, because they have not signed the agreement. It's you're ethically you're going against the code of ethics. But I do think that by saying, hey, like we would be doing this and they can't do this and we would be able to structure in this way, they go, okay, got it. They need to understand kind of what is
How are you
the
going to solve the
potential
problem?
plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's the plan for that? But to get into all the details, no, I don't think that you should be doing that. And I also think that there are attorneys that are like, I'm not going to say anything until they give me something. I'm not even going to tell them the plan until they sign my agreement. And it's like, but you're missing a step for them being comfortable with you to say, yeah, you know what, Alay has really laid this out really nicely. I like this. This is he actually heard me. He understands my pain. I understand what I'm going to gain by working with him. Yeah, we can do this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Showing
feel
them
comfortable.
showing them that high level plan, knowing how, communicating to them at a high level how they're going to get from point A to point B with you alongside them is a critical part of the consultation process. If you skip it, they're probably not going to sign up with you. And
Yep.
there's a difference between doing that and actually giving legal advice and solving their issue. One, as you mentioned, Gary, we're not able to give them legal advice because they haven't signed the fee agreement yet. They're not actually clients. So we can't give them legal advice. There's another thing that happens when a client feels like in the consultation you have solved their problem. They take a deep breath and they say, ah,
Okay.
right. And then what do? Bye.
Right. Nothing.
Thanks. Because you've taken away that sense of urgency, you've taken away that pain that they no longer experience. So please, 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 you're not able to solve their problems on the call
Right.
or the meeting, and you shouldn't try. But showing them that plan makes a lot of sense. And
Mhm.
so, Gary, we're trying to do a lot of different things in this consultation, and that all takes time. So, kind of, and I know everything's different, but kind of best practice for you when you're coaching attorneys on doing consultations, kind of where do you start with about how much time it should be taking?
It really does depend on the type of attorney that they are, and how much information they need to get from the client. But if they're able to get the pain out of them in a very short amount of time, it doesn't take very long. But there are other attorneys that it does take. I have one client who is a healthcare attorney. He works with law hospitals. His consultations are typically an hour and a half to 2 hours. And the reason why is because he's working with these hospital boards and he's got to get a few different panels that for them to approve them. But then, like estate planning attorneys, if they've got a really good, tight intake, they can really get to the heart of the matter. And those typically do not take usually more than 20 minutes. I've never a fan of all I need is 5 minutes. Say, let's do a half hour. And if it takes 5 minutes, then great. Because um, there's too many times that people will be like, oh, it'll take no time. And then at that 5 minutes, they just keep going and they keep going and they keep going. And then it becomes a half hour. And that is also ruining their reputation, because now they go, this person is going to always waste my time. This person doesn't respect my time because they told me it was going to be 5 minutes and it's actually more. That is more of an insult than anything else. And how are you really going to get to know somebody in 5 minutes? Come on, that's just not going to happen. But if you've got a really good intake, and then you are able to get straight to the point and with your questions to get to the pain, then I think that you can really wrap this thing up in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. And if you don't have an intake process, a 15-minute call ahead of time will do kind of the same thing. As long as you have those questions written out and you know what you're asking them, you can qualify them over the phone and determine if they should even bother coming in.
Yep. Very true.
Love this.
Very
and
true.
we can go, we did not cover
Oh, God.
free versus
Yeah.
paid consultations, because that is a whole nother ball of wax. My philosophy on it is that there are situations where free consultations works really well. There are situations where paid consultations works really well. What's most important is that it works really well for the attorney and their practice. What are your thoughts, Gary?
Absolutely, 100%. You have to do it based on your ideal clients, your target market, and what is going to pull them in while saving you time.
There's lots of strongly held opinions on this. Some people are like, oh,
Yep.
we have to do free consultations. Other people are saying, stop wasting your time and do paid consultations.
Yep.
As long as it really works for the attorney, I'm good with whatever, as long as it makes sense, right?
Yep.
I guess you and I are both kind of in the reasonable middle ground on that one.
Yeah.
And we even
I mean, it
advise
really is
attorneys both ways.
Because it really is, it's like marketing. There's not one size fits all. What works for one won't work for another one. And it also has to do not only with the attorney, but also with their target. Because some target, you're like, there's no way you're going to get them to pay a consultation fee. No way, and nor should you, especially if you're not providing any value. You're like, well, they're taking up my time. Okay. So you're not providing any value. Then provide value so that they get something for that $500 consultation fee. So yeah, it's but that's why they need you to do that.
So Gary, there's a lot of things that you do with attorneys. Please tell us a little bit about your services.
So I work with individual attorneys on how to help them build their book of business, and doing it in a very confident way, so that they're like, okay, got it. They spend less time doing it and they make more money.
Love that. And if someone wants to reach you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So LinkedIn or my email at garyj@j2marketingconsultants.com.
Awesome. Gary, it's been great having you on Lawyer Business Advantage. Thanks again for gracing us with your presence, my friend.
Thank you for everything.
All right, everyone, that is Gary Johnson with J2 Marketing Consultants.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Lawyer Business Advantage podcast. One thing that would really help both us and other new potential listeners is for you to rate this show and leave a comment in iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you tune in to listen. And I want to hear from you, so connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know what you think of this episode. And if you are a solo or an owner of a small law firm, and you're looking to earn more money, attract better clients, or reduce your stress, we would love to talk with you to see how we can help. Request your free law firm assessment by visiting lawfirmsuccessgroup.com. Again, that URL is lawfirmsuccessgroup.com. We look forward to talking with you soon. Thank you for listening. My name is Alay Yajnik. Until next time, remember, you can seize freedom. You can embrace happiness. You can build your perfect practice.